my $36 million hearing, they told me I couldn't live alone. So when the judge asked my lawyer's name, I shocked everyone. I never imagined that one Tuesday morning would change my life forever. I had spent months preparing for this hearing. And yet, the moment I stepped into the courthouse, I felt the cold eyes of the world sizing me up. "Miss Carter," the clerk said, "the court is ready for you." I walked into the courtroom, my heels clicking against the polished floor, my heart racing, but my mind completely calm. On the surface, I was the perfect picture of composure, a 29-year-old woman with a $3.6 million inheritance in my name, standing tall in a designer suit that cost more than most people made in a year. But inside, I was boiling with rage. Because they didn't just doubt me, they tried to take away my independence. The issue at hand was absurd. My own family wanted the court to decide that I couldn't live alone. That at 29, I was somehow incapable of managing my inheritance or living independently. I laughed at the notion in private, but in court I held my tongue. "Your Honor," my cousin Richard said, smirking from the witness stand. "Miss Carter has a history of impulsive decisions. We believe it's in her best interest to have a legal guardian oversee her finances." Impulsive decisions, sure, spending my allowance on a limited edition designer bag in high school might count. Or that time I bought a $12,000 car for purely aesthetic reasons. But I had built my fortune through smart investments, business ventures, and careful planning. And now my own family, people who I had trusted with my heart, were trying to steal everything from me. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and glasses that magnified her eyes to twice their normal size, raised an eyebrow. "Miss Carter, how do you respond to these allegations?" I smiled. Not the polite smile, not the nervous smile, the smile that said, "You're about to regret this." "Your Honor," I began, my voice steady, "I am fully capable of managing my own life and finances. I have never defaulted on a payment. I have multiple successful business ventures. And I have never required a legal guardian in my entire life. This claim is not only insulting, it's baseless." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Even my family's lawyer seemed caught off guard. The judge leaned back in her chair. "And who is representing you, Miss Carter?" The moment I had been waiting for. I looked down at my perfectly manicured hands, then slowly raised my gaze to meet the judge. "My lawyer," I said, pausing just long enough to make the room lean forward, "is none other than Miss Victoria Blackwell." The courtroom froze, eyes widened, jawline stiffened. Even my cousin Richard looked like he had bitten into something sour. Victoria Blackwell. The same Victoria Blackwell, who had won multiple high-profile cases against billion-dollar corporations, who had outsmarted politicians, and who was rumored to charge more per hour than most families made in a month. The judge blinked. "Miss Blackwell, you're representing her." "Yes, Your Honor," I said, savoring the tiny smirk tugging at the corner of my lips. "And I can assure you she has everything under control." The rest of the day blurred into a whirlwind of testimony, objections, and legal gymnastics. Every attempt my family made to paint me as unstable crumbled under Victoria's precise questioning. She was a machine, elegant and terrifying in equal measure, dismantling Richard's arguments like a child knocking over blocks. By the end of the day, the judge had seen enough. "Miss Carter, based on the evidence presented and the formidable representation, I see no reason why you cannot live independently. Your claim stands as valid." The room erupted. My family's faces were a mix of disbelief and fury. I, however, remained calm. Because this wasn't just a victory. It was the beginning of a revenge I had been planning for years. The courtroom victory was only the beginning. Walking out that day, heels echoing against the marble floor, I realized the real battle wasn't in court. It was in my own home. For years my family had treated me like a child. They questioned my decisions, undermined my authority, and assumed that because I was young and independent, I was naive. But now the scales had tipped, and I intended to make them regret every sneer, every whispered insult. Step 1. Planting the seeds. I returned to my $3.6 million estate, A modern mansion perched on the cliffs of Malibu with an ocean view that made everyone who visited envious. But this house to me was more than a home. It was a fortress of strategy. I began by quietly reviewing every transaction my family had made in the past. My cousin Richard, the so-called financial expert, had funneled money from family accounts into suspicious ventures. My parents had pretended to manage my trust while secretly diverting funds to fund my sister's extravagant lifestyle. I had the receipts, bank statements, and emails. Victoria, my lawyer, advised patience. Let them make the first move. Your family thinks they control the narrative, but you control the evidence. I smiled. That was my style. Calculated, patient, and deadly precise. Step 2, turning the tables. A week later, I invited my family over under the guise of a casual brunch. They arrived smug, certain that I'd invite them for reconciliation, but I had a different plan. Before we eat, I said casually, I thought it would be nice to show everyone some updates on the estate. Richard leaned back smirking. Updates? This should be interesting. I handed Victoria a stack of documents, and she began reading aloud the mismanaged funds, the secret accounts, the fraudulent transfers. Every word was like a scalpel, cutting through the lies my family had built over years. Faces went pale. My mother clutched her pearls, my father stammered, and my sister's eyes widened in horror. You knew? My father asked, voice cracking. I knew, I said calmly. And now the court will know too if this continues. Step 3, the public reveal. Next came the public exposure. With Victoria's help, I filed a legal complaint that forced my family's actions into the public record. Local newspapers and business magazines picked up the story. Suddenly, the people who had mocked me, who had tried to strip away my independence, were the subject of scrutiny. My sister, who once flaunted my parents' favoritism, became the laughingstock of society. Every event she attended, whispers followed. Oh, is she the one living off her sister's inheritance? Step 4, the ultimate shock. The climax came at the annual family gala, a lavish event my family had always used to display their wealth and status. I arrived with Victoria at my side, dressed in a sleek black gown that demanded attention. Everyone, I said, raising my glass. I have an announcement. They all turned, anticipation painted across their faces. I've decided, I continued, pausing for dramatic effect, to buy the company that Richard has been embezzling funds from, and naturally, I'll be appointing myself CEO. Silence, then chaos. Richard's face turned crimson. My parents sputtered. My sister actually tripped over her heels trying to leave the room. I raised my glass again, savoring every second. I've spent years underestimating myself because of you, I said, voice steady. But no more. From this day forward, I answer only to myself. The gala erupted into whispers, clicks of cameras, and stunned expressions. I had not only reclaimed my independence, I had seized control of everything they thought they could manipulate. Epilogue, victory and freedom. Weeks later, life returned to a calmer pace. I managed my estate, oversaw my investments, and occasionally received awkward calls from my family begging for forgiveness. I ignored most of them. Victoria remained my trusted ally, and together we had not only preserved my fortune, but turned the tables completely. I learned a valuable lesson. When people doubt you, when they try to control you, it's the perfect opportunity to show them just how unstoppable you are. I was free, wealthy, and empowered. And no one would ever tell me what I could or couldn't do again.